Okay. Great, wonderful. So, welcome everybody. My name is Susan Macbeth. I'm the founder and owner of Adventures by the Book, and I have Fabiola with me here today. And we'd like to welcome you to another edition of Pitchfest, our semi-annual event where we invite 16 to 20 fabulous Adventures by the Book authors to come pitch their book to book clubs, librarians, reading groups, and individual readers who are all hoping that you will choose their book for your next read. Um, and they all have new books coming out or just released. So we're really excited to hear all about those. As a reminder, all of these are Adventures by the Book authors, which means that they want to visit with your book clubs, your reading groups. They want you to select their books. And we are thrilled to have them as members because we adore all of them. So all you have to do is go to Adventures by the Book and register your group. It's completely free for book clubs. And you can visit any of these authors. You can read a little bit about them and their books, and you can even see their calendar right there on the site and schedule visits with them. So it's really a fun program. We look forward to connecting book clubs and authors. So thank you for that. For those of you who are not familiar with Adventures by the Book, I hope you get on our email list and learn more about our events. We do in-person events, mostly based in Southern California. And then we do virtual events like our popular Pitchfest event. We do book club bingo. We have our own virtual book club, Adventures by the Book book club, that is hosted by our 7 fabulous ambassadors around the US and Canada. We have coming up an Adventures by the Book book club with Piper Hughley. We have a lot of people signed up for that event coming in February. That's really exciting. If you are in Southern California, or you want to travel to Southern California on March 1st, and who doesn't when it's cold and snowy everywhere else in the nation, we have our annual Superbook event featuring 11 fabulous authors over a day long of activities. It's super fun. It includes lunch and tote bags and all kinds of fun stuff. And our keynote speaker at lunch is world-renowned drummer Zorro, who has played for the likes of Lenny Kravitz, Earth, Wind, and Fire. He's incredible. And he has agreed to perform for us. So he is going to be playing the drums at halftime. Just go to our Adventures by the Book website to see more. And Fabiola is great. She's putting all the links in the chat box for you to conveniently click on. Thank you all of you who have ordered books from our authors. Almost every one of those has been shipped out unless you ordered in the last day or so. So get out your cheat sheet, get ready to take notes on who you love, who you want to read, who you're excited about. I want to thank the authors who have all donated books for a giveaway that we're going to do at the end of the event. And yes, you do have to be present to win because we want you to stay till the end and not miss a single speaker. So we are doing a alphabetical order by cheat sheet, so you can follow along. And there's a couple authors who couldn't make it, but they sent in a little video that we're going to play for you as well. And as I told the authors before we get started, we're very excited that we're ready to reach a major milestone with Adventures by the Book. We are now serving over 10,000 book club readers and librarians in 46 US states and 4 countries. So 46 US states, we're just waiting for those last 4. So if you know anybody, if you are in Alaska, North Dakota, Vermont, and Wyoming, encourage them to sign up their book club, their library group, so that we can reach all 50 states. It's a milestone we're very excited and hope comes very soon. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started alphabetically. You can put your screen on gallery view or speaker view. I'm going to ask all our authors now to mute themselves so that if you choose speaker view, you will see only who is speaking. And so alphabetically, it's Lola Reed Allen. We're excited to have Lola here. She is a former airline transport pilot from Canada who has had the privilege of exploring more than 60 countries around the world. Drawn from her personal story, her book, Highway to the Sky, is a gripping memoir that's not just about flying. It's about breaking free of societal expectations. Yes, go Lola, and navigating life on your own terms. Welcome. We're excited to hear more about your book. And you'll have to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. That was a lovely introduction, and I'm thrilled to be here. So, this is my book, Highway to the Sky An Aviator's Journey. It chronicles my metamorphosis from bank employee to commercial pilot. Author Sandra Schnackenberg writes a gripping memoir of resilience, filled with moments of heartbreak and triumph. And as Susan said, it's not just about flying. Sure, there's a little bit of information, but it's mostly about navigating life on your own terms. So, come with me as I tackle my personal life challenges, ending marriage to a bullying alcoholic, becoming a single mom, dealing with a complicated dating scene, and the professional challenge of fulfilling my childhood dream of flying airplanes. So, aviation is the framework that drives the story forward. The real story is about rising above adversity. Flying is a metaphor for personal fulfillment. Though I always had a big dream, I wasn't always the confident woman you see today. Despite my childhood desire to avoid a traditional female role, that same lonesome childhood fostered a desperate need for unconditional love. Coupled with the crushing social pressure I felt to conform, I abandoned my dreams and at age 20 leapt into marriage and motherhood. At first, my marriage was fabulous. But sometime within the first 3 years, I knew I'd made a mistake. I wanted to leave, but my fear of life on the other side was a major roadblock. What would happen? Learning to fly, however, acquiring the ability and the knowledge required to control an aircraft gave me the confidence to believe in myself and the courage to regain control of my life. And I want readers to learn that professional success and or personal happiness are possible if life's roadblocks and detours are viewed as challenges and learning opportunities. So, 4 years into my crumbling marriage, one private pilot license later, I made my first major detour. I decided to step out of line, leave my husband, even though I knew I'd be censured by friends, family, and the 1970s society for defying the social norms of accepted roles and behaviors for women. One reader commented, Lola's story will appeal to anyone who has joyfully slid into a relationship full of love and promise, only to face the challenge of ending that relationship upon discovering it to be toxic and possibly dangerous. 9 months after I left my husband, I made a second major detour. I quit my job at the bank and got my first flying job. Professional flying was exhilarating and challenging, and I loved it. In my book, I detail some of the delights and the more harrowing escapades. Spoiler alert, I survived. But as the lone female flight instructor, bush pilot, charter pilot, and commuter airline pilot in Canada, my true obstacles were discrimination, sexual and verbal harassment, and hostility from colleagues and supervisors. If that wasn't enough, on the personal front, I had a complex dating scene. As a single mom, I had to navigate a maze of men, some wanting to be a dad to my son, men totally disinterested in children, men who only wanted sex, one man reluctant to have sex, and another who would have liked sex 6 times a day. Another reader wrote, Lola's exploration of social expectations, gender norms, and the pursuit of personal fulfillment resonated deeply with me, prompting reflection on my own experiences and the importance of resilience and determination in the face of challenges. If you like books where the protagonist transforms and triumphs, you will love reading about my determination to fly, literally, in the face of tradition and about my success in a man's world. Retired Alaska Airlines Captain Aaron Speth writes, Highway to the Sky is an enlightening read full of captivating imagery, elegant descriptive language, and adventure that gives hope to all to keep fighting for their dreams. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lola. Wow, you do have a lot of stuff to write about. So fascinating read for readers. Thank you for being here today.
Thank
Next up,
you.
we have Jeffrey Blunt. Jeffrey Blunt is an Emmy Award winning television director and award winning author of The Emancipation of Evan Walls. In his latest novel, Mr. Jimmy from Around the Way, James Henry Ferguson attempts to flee from his highly publicized fall from grace, only to make a troubling discovery in his new town that forces him to confront his past. And Jeffrey writes really powerful books, so we can't wait to hear more about that. Jeffrey, welcome.
Susan, thank you. And thank you everyone for coming. And I'm glad to be here tonight to share Mr. Jimmy from Around the Way. I want to start by highlighting one word, activism. It's a dirty word for many people today. Many people, when they hear it, they think of tens of thousands of people in the street. They think of buildings on fire and people committing violence against each other. But I'm here to say that I think that that's only a small percentage of the word activism. The greater part of the word is made up by the wonderful, beautiful things we do for each other every day. If you have ever gone to school to talk to a teacher on behalf of your child, then you are, in my mind, an activist for better education. If you've ever stood up for or represented a friend or family member in a medical situation, then you have been an activist for better healthcare. If you've ever fed the hungry, if you've ever clothed the partially clothed, then you have been an activist. And this is the kind of activism, I call it the activism of kindness, that was in my heart when I wrote Mr. Jimmy from Around the Way. Now, Mr. Jimmy from Around the Way is about James Henry Ferguson. He's a Black billionaire, and he is well known, he's beloved, and he suffers an incredibly shocking fall from grace. He runs away to a rural southern community, Ham, Mississippi, because he thinks he can escape the traditional and social media. But he can't. And he finds himself adjacent to a neighborhood that is mired in total abject poverty. He doesn't want to have anything to do with this neighborhood because he's got his own problems trying to fix what is broken in his life. But he does get drawn into this community. And the book follows him trying to find some sort of redemption and trying to keep this community from collapsing upon itself. Now, I chose this community because, as a bit of literary activism, I wanted to speak to the issues of lack of healthcare, lack of housing, lack of education, and more. And I chose this community because as I did my research, I realized each one of these things could have been a book in itself, but communities with this kind of poverty, all of these kinds of things are represented. And I thought it would give us a chance to read about our fellow human beings, our fellow community members, see their lives, and see how we can participate in helping to change their lives. This book, it is about poverty, it is about the things that come with it, but there's also love, there's also kindness, there's also joy, and I emphasize kindness. And it's written with the hope that the book will make a difference. I believe in the power of the written word. Margaret Atwood said, "A word after word after word is power." And if you think about The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, one man sat in a room and wrote a novel that changed the legislative direction of our country. I am not thinking that I am doing that, but I'm saying that I hope that people will read this book and understand the passion that I have for trying to open eyes about what some of our fellow human beings are going through and what we can do to help. There is a line in the UN mission statement that I love. Every human being is born free and equal in dignity and rights. And I'd like you to sit with all the beautiful stuff first, and the love and the caring, the joy and the laughter. But when you close the book, I hope that you will feel motivated by this story to try to make sure that we all are able to participate in the world in an equal way. I will just say that there's one woman who wrote something that touched my heart. "I have never had a fictional book strike such a call to action in my soul before." I hope that when you read Mr. Jimmy from Around the Way, you will find a call to action as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. And we've done a lot of events with Jeffrey, and let me tell you, he is a true literary activist in the most positive, delightful sense of the word. Like Julie said, the activism of kindness, she loves that term, and Jeffrey embodies that beautifully. So thanks for sharing that today, Jeffrey. Next up, we have Marie Bostwick. We're glad you could make it today. She is a USA Today and New York Times bestselling author of uplifting historical and women's fiction, including the popular Cobbled Court Quilt series. In her new book, The Book Club for Troublesome Women, which, by the way, I love the title, Margaret Ryan never really meant to start a book club or a feminist revolution in her buttoned-up suburb. But when she concocts a book club get-together and invites other neighborhood women, they begin to discover that the American dream that they've been sold is not all roses and sunshine. And we love Marie and can't wait to hear more about your new book. Welcome, Marie.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Always love to talk about books. I'm making my own notes. Well, yes, this is my new book, The Book Club for Troublesome Women. And I got to tell you, as a writer, I never really know where a good idea will come from. This time it happened because of a conversation with my 91-year-old mother, who still works, mixes a killer martini, and whose aspirational exit strategy is to be shot by a jealous wife. In short, she's a pistol. So one day we were talking about books and the feminine mystique came up, and she said, I don't know if I ever told you, but that book changed my life. She hadn't, so I asked her to start talking. But you know, when Betty Friedan's groundbreaking work was published in 1963, I was still a baby. But 5 minutes into that conversation with my mother, I knew what I had to write next. The story of four dissatisfied 60s era housewives who start a feminist book club that changes everything. Researching the book club for troublesome women, coming face to face with the rules, attitudes, and indignities that constricted women of my mother's generation often moved me to anger, but it also moved me to profound admiration. The opportunities that I take for granted today were paid for by the generation of fearless, dauntless, troublesome women who came before me. And that's really one of the reasons I wanted to write this book, because too many of us have either forgotten or really never knew that the rights and greater, though not yet complete, equality that women enjoy today didn't exist just a generation or two ago. But of course, that's only one part of the conversation. Book clubs are going to find a lot of fodder for discussion in this book. There's so much to talk about. The personalities and motivations of the four main characters, the choices and course corrections they make as the story unfolds, the ways they support each other or sometimes fail to support each other, as well as the questions about what you might have done had you been walking in their shoes, and the myriad ways in which a story set in 1963 still rings true for us today. If I had to pick out just a few lines from the book that really sum up what I wanted to say here, it would be these. There are countless good and right ways to be a woman, and only two wrong. The first is to insist that your way is the way, the only way. The second is to buy into that nonsense and spend the rest of your life limping along an aimless path in shoes that will never fit. I think you're going to love these characters. I am absolutely crazy about them. They are four very different people: Margaret, Charlotte, Viv, and Bitsy, collectively known as the Bettys, in homage to the woman whose books first inspired them to found the club. And they travel four very different paths to fulfillment. But if I'd written 8 characters or 10 characters or 10,000 characters, each of them would likewise have traveled a different road, a journey custom fit for their singular personalities, circumstances, strengths, weaknesses, dreams, and desires, just like in real life. These characters are very dear to me. This book is very dear to me, but I wrote it for you. Besides weaving a really good yarn, just a story that you can easily get lost in, I wrote it to supply you with viewpoints to consider and questions to mull over, as aspirations to reach for. But mostly I wrote it in hopes that you would find something of yourself in these pages, something of your sisters and mine, all the unique, imperfect, troublesome women of this oh so troublesome and sometimes troubling world. Because no matter who we are or where we gather, whether it's at the office or school or a volunteer committee or church or your neighborhood book club, we need each other still. So I hope you'll read the Book Club for Troublesome Women. It's the best thing I've ever done, no kidding.
Thank you, Marie. And we do love troublesome women, especially in a juicy book like yours. So thank you so much. Our next presenter, I'm going to have Fabiola cue up her recording because Jennifer Coburn is on book tour. Her book just published on Tuesday, The Girls of the Glimmer Factory, and she is on a national book tour. So check her out in a city near you, and maybe you can meet her in person. But go ahead and cue that up with a screen share, and we'll go ahead and get it started.
Okay, can you see my screen? Yes? Okay, let's do this.
I don't hear the video.
You don't hear the audio. Okay.
I mean, yeah,
You
thank you, audio.
Sometimes if you have earphones connected, if you take out the earphone from the jack, you could hear the video better.
Oh, let me disconnect then. Can you hear it? Give me 1 second. Okay, I don't know what is the problem. Susan, can we skip over to the next person while I figure this out?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Okay, let's do that.
Okay, while Fabiola works out the tech glitches on that, we'll show that video in a little bit. We're going to go next to Stephanie Dre, and I didn't see Stephanie in the audience. So Stephanie, can you show yourself if you're there? If not, we'll skip you. And yeah, I don't see her in the audience. So we're going to skip over Stephanie as well and come back to her when she does show up. So next in line then will be Rosa Kwan Easton. And I know she's in the audience. So Rosa is a Korean American debut author whose novel White Mulberry is based on her grandmother's true story. It's a rich, deeply moving portrait of a young Korean woman in 1930s Japan who is torn between two worlds and must reclaim her true identity to provide a future for her family. It is unputdownable. It is incredible for a debut book. It's amazing. Welcome, Rosa.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much, Susan. I'm a native Angelino, but I'm actually here in Chicago on book tour. My debut came out December 1st, and I'm excited because I'm engaging with readers everywhere, and it's really thrilling. Let me tell you a little bit about my book. I think if you are a fan of pachinko, you're going to love White Mulberry. As Susan said, White Mulberry is based on the life of my own grandmother, a Korean woman coming of age in 1930s Japan occupied Korea. She is an 11-year-old girl when we start the book, and it's her journey of having dreams that are too big for her small village outside Pyongyang. And those dreams are to become a teacher and to avoid an arranged marriage. So when her older sister moves to Japan and she has a chance to continue her education there, she is elated. But then she soon discovers she must pass as Japanese to survive in a society rife with anti-Korean sentiment. It's a story of resilience, love, and the power of identity. And it's about a woman torn between two worlds. And if you've ever felt in between places and in between two cultures, I think you're going to enjoy it. It's an emotionally gripping read. And I believe that if you are like one of the readers that I've encountered in my book tour, that you will be moved by Myung's story. As I said, I just finished a book tour and I was in Chicago downtown last night and was able to have a conversation with my old writing instructor, Lindsay Devon, and she blurred my novel and she had this to say. She said, sorry, I was rapt as I followed Myung on her journey from Korea to pursue the life she dreamed of in Japan, becoming Miyoko, and as she lost and then found herself. White Mulberry is historical fiction at its finest, a beautiful searching epic about what it means to be home. So I think that's a real testament to the emotional journey of Mi-young, who is takes after or is developed through the character of or who I imagined was a young grandmother, my own grandmother. And I had originally written it as nonfiction after interviewing my grandmother numerous times before she passed away. But what drew me to her story was really her coming of age and making the impossible choices she had to make as a young woman. I think the message is to be yourself. And if you are of hybrid identities or there's intersectional aspects of your identity culturally or otherwise, I think you will find something to be moved by reading my novel. So I hope you invite me to your book club or to one of your gatherings. I'm going to New York and to Boston next. So if you're in one of those cities, I'd love to see you at one of my events. And thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. And I love your outfit that it matches your book cover.
I've been going around and people have been showing up in these colors. So it's just thrilling that everybody is engaged. So I really appreciate it.
That's awesome. And Adele reminds us that she got this on Amazon First Reads. So it was honored with that
Yes.
collection as well. So
Yeah.
Fabiola's been typing in all the authors' contact information in the chat box. So you can check more out about them and the authors on book tour who mentioned, I think Jennifer's on book tour and Rosa's on book tour. I don't know who else, but you can go to their website to find out the cities they're going to be in. So if you're near one of those cities, you can go meet them in person as well. So thank you, Rosa, so much. Next up, we have Sarah C. Johns, is a writer and video producer who has studied in South Africa, Hungary, Israel, and Germany before attending film school in Sydney, Australia. Her debut novel, The Sirens of Solihull City, I hope I pronounced that right, is the witty, touching story of 3 generations of women who learn to own their mistakes and rebuild their bonds as they prepare to compete in a senior synchronized swimming competition. It sounds wonderful. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. So I am going to, now that I've been outed as someone who supposedly knows about video and film, I'm going to attempt a multimedia presentation. So it worked 1 out of 3 times. So we'll see how this goes. Let's see. No, that's not it. Okay, let me just see. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
You can. Okay. All right. We're halfway there. All right. So when I was growing up, there was one truth that seemed as if it would never change. My mom's 2 moms, her much married mom, who was in and out of her life, and so let's see, I have to show you who that is right here. And that is she's about 18 there. And my mom's stepmom, who was the consistent presence in her life, and there she was in a modeling picture. These 2 women could not stand each other. Then one day after the husband they had shared died, they became friends. My mom prefers friendly, but that might be more accurate. But they met for lunch and coffee and called each other on the phone. It made sense because they were actually just living a few miles from each other in West Palm Beach, Florida. And they were, most importantly, they shared a family. So although this coming together freaked my mom out, it definitely, because it changed a basic truth she knew about herself, it always intrigued me. So this relationship between these 2 women and these 2 mothers became the inspiration for The Sirens of Solihull City, which is my debut, was published by Random House in July. The story focuses on 4 women moving between their points of view. There's Dale, an artist who was married 6 times. She's had a very unconventional relationship with her daughter since leaving her when she was 5 years old. Now she's living in Solihull City, a rundown senior apartment complex in West Palm Beach, which is in danger of being torn down and rebuilt as condos that Dale and her new friends at Solihull City can't afford. Marlis met Dale during the war. She married Dale's first husband after Dale left and raised her daughter as her own. Now she's widowed and has reconnected with Dale. She's sick, very sick, terminally sick, but she isn't telling anyone that she's sick, least of all her daughter. And her daughter is Sherry, who is coming up. Here we go. Sherry is Dale and Marlis's daughter. At 58, she's had 2 years of, as she says, light daughtering and late mothering. It was a break she knew had to end, and she's a fixer, and she knew it was only a matter of time before someone needed something fixed. Sherry's daughter, Laura, is pregnant with her first child, which is great news. Less great is the fact that her husband has been cheating on her with her best friend, which is something she just found out. So many problems, and Sherry is ready to take them all on. She thinks she can do it all in one fell swoop with the 1999 South Florida Senior Synchronized Swimming Competition. Dale and the women of Soleil City can compete and get the publicity they need to save their apartment complex. Laura can coach them, giving her something to do to stay sane as she contemplates her future. And the time in Florida will give Sherry the cover she needs to stay with Marlis and to find out if there's anything that can be done for her stepmom. Over the course of 3 weeks in an apartment complex in West Palm Beach filled with feisty, fun, strong-willed women in their 70s, and it sounds like Marie's mother would fit very well with this group, the 4 women of this uneasy family learn that with life and motherhood, there isn't good and bad. There's only trying to get it right. The St. Paul Pioneer Press said that Sirens is a delightful book with everything you want in a story, an intricate plot, lively and well-drawn characters, good dialogue, humor, and 3 generations of love. And this is a funny book. I offer you a book that definitely should make you laugh. I always have to coach that. Might even make you cry, and will give your book clubs much to discuss. So, it's an affordable paperback at just under 300 pages. So, I would definitely recommend you give this one a try.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. It sounds amazing. And I forgot to mention that some of these authors, Sarah's one of them, I think Christina McMorris and Jennifer Coburn and Rosa Kwan Easton. I don't know if I've left anyone out, but they're all going to be appearing live at our Superbook event in San Diego on March 1st. So at least 4 of these authors you can meet in person at our Superbook event. So I hope you guys consider coming out and checking out our website to get your tickets. Thank you, Sarah. Next up, we have Eliza Knight, who is the USA Today best-selling author and the creator of the popular historical blog History Undressed. Now, she's got 2 newer books out, and I think on our cheat sheet, we put The Queen's Faithful Companion, which is an endearing and vivid story told from the unique multi-narrative viewpoints of a young Queen Elizabeth, Hannah Penwick, the fictionalized keeper of the Queen's dogs, and Susan, the Queen's corgi. But also the other book, Confessions of a Grammar Queen, which follows savvy, ambitious Bernadette Swift, who plans to become the first female CEO in the publishing industry in 1960s New York. So both fabulous books. I don't know which one you're going to talk about both, but you can't go wrong with Eliza Knight. Welcome, Eliza.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you guys and to talk about my new book. The Queen's Faithful Companion came out last year. It's about the Queen and her corgi, who was the 14th, or the matriarch of 14 generations of corgis. And that book has a component in it which is told from the point of view of Susan, the corgi. And I couldn't help but fall in love with a dog's point of view, which was really, really fun to write and very endearing. So when I was thinking about my next book, I thought, well, I think I kind of want to incorporate a dog. And it just so happens that at this time I was on tour for the Queen's Faithful Companion, and I was at a bar, and I met this dog there. And it's kind of a funny story to say, oh, I met this dog at a bar and he inspired me to write another book. But it's true, his name was Frank. He was a Great Dane. And I thought, I've got to have this dog in a book, but what kind of setting could he be in? So at the same time, I was also headed to New York. I went to the library there, doing some research for a book. And I thought, you know what, maybe I could have a book take place in New York. And I was reading this book called Between You and Me, and it's a fun, nerdy grammar book. If you like to read nonfiction about grammar, definitely recommend it. And I thought, you know what? There's a really amazing woman in this book. She was called the Grammarian. She was the most famous copy editor in New York City for the New Yorker that has ever lived. And I thought I want to write a story about her, but I wanted to write something that was more fictional. And then Bernadette Swift was born. She is a dog lover, and she is a young copy editor in the city, and she wants to become the first female CEO of a publishing house. Now, this is 1960s. There were no female CEOs. And spoiler alert, there wasn't one until the 80s. But she has ambitions. And so it's just a really, really fun, quirky book about a woman who loves words, who is going to kind of buck the system to, become a publishing CEO. And I'm going to share my screen to show you the cover because I don't have an arc yet. It comes out in June. Can you guys see it? It's such a cute cover, isn't it? So that's Bernadette at her desk with her little red pencil. And I'm going to read a little bit about the book to you. So Bernadette Swift, a young copy editor at Lenox and Park Publishing, is determined to become the first female CEO in the publishing industry. But first, she needs to take the next step up that ladder with a promotion that her boorish and sexist boss wants to thwart. Seeking a base of support, Bernadette joins a feminist women's book club at the New York Public Library. And soon, she's inspiring her fellow members to challenge the male gatekeepers and decades of ingrained sexism in their workplaces and pursue their personal and professional dreams. And that is precisely what Bernadette does on a daily basis. She keeps her eye on the prize, equality for women in the workplace and a promotion, while fending off the ire of her boss and the sabotaging efforts of a jealous coworker. With the support of her book club buddies and her Great Dane named Frank, she has a certain charismatic editor at Lenox and Park who maybe has fallen for her. Bernadette will prove able to claim victory for herself and the young women coming after her. A couple of really amazing endorsements have come in for the book so far. New York Times bestselling author Madeline Martin says, "Knight is the ultimate queen bee grammarian as she brings the struggles of women in the 60s to life with her incredible research and perfect prose. If you've ever silently or not so silently corrected someone's grammar, this book is for you." And Sarah Penner, New York Times bestselling author, says, "Sometimes all it takes is one fearless woman to turn the page on an entire industry. Utterly charming." I am going to stop sharing my screen if I can figure it out. Sorry, not the best with Zoom. But anyways, it's a really, really fun book. Bernadette Swift is my, a little bit of me in there. I love words. She loved to study the dictionary as a child, just like me. So it's just really fun and quirky, but also dealing with some more serious issues. So thank you.
Thank you, Eliza. You can never go wrong with an Eliza Knight book. And who doesn't love a good grammar queen? Come on. Fabiola, how's it coming with the Jennifer Coburn video?
Let me try again.
All right, we're going to try again.
Give me.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for the audio to work.
Can you hear it?
No.
Let me try it again.
I mean, I can try it. I have it on my desktop as well. I could try it on mine to see if we get a video or audio.
Let me see. Oh, I see where it is.
Brand new historical
Can
novel.
you hear it now?
Hello, Adventures by the Book Clubs.
Perfect.
It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. My name is Jennifer Coburn, and I am the author of the brand new historical novel, The Girls of the Glimmer Factory, which just came out on Tuesday. I am on the road right now touring, but I'm really excited to share information with you about Girls of the Glimmer Factory with hopes that it will appeal to you and your book club and that you'll read it and have me come and talk to you. So real quick, Girls of the Glimmer Factory is about Hilda and Hannah, two childhood friends who reconnect as adults at the Theresienstadt concentration camp in the Czech Republic, then Czechoslovakia. This was a camp that the Nazis created specifically for propaganda purposes, because they knew that if they were going to carry out the final solution, the global community would start asking questions, and they needed a place to take the Red Cross and humanitarian groups to show them how well the Jewish people were living. So not only did the Nazis have a Red Cross set, a tour, a set for a tour, but they also decided to create a film, a fake documentary that is often called Hitler Gives a City to the Jews. When these two women face off, they have an opportunity to discover who they truly are at the core and who they are meant to become. I write stories about weighty subjects, but what I try to do is focus on the women's relationships and how the friendships, the connections that we make with one another help us to become the heroines we were always meant to be. So I am also a Jewish author, and it's a tremendous honor and a responsibility to write about the Holocaust. Those of you who know me from my debut historical novel, Cradles of the Reich, you know I can go pretty far down a historical research rabbit hole. And I want to do that because I owe it to the readers to give you an accurate sense of time and place. But I went even further down the rabbit hole with this one. Not only did I do the research here in the United States, I went to the Czech Republic and I stayed at the site of the former concentration camp. And I stayed in former prisoner housing that was converted into a coffee house for both the film and the Red Cross tour. I have pictures that I took at the camp, and I love showing them to people so you can see how these lies were propagated and how dictators take fiction and present it as fact, and lies as present it as truth, and most importantly, or equally importantly, how we can prevent something like this from happening again. I hope we can connect at a book club meeting this year. And I'm also on social media at Jennifer Coburn Books, Instagram and Facebook. And take a look at my website, jennifercoburn.com, to see when I will be in your part of the country live and in person. If you're in Cleveland right now, so am I. Let's get together. Thanks.
Thank you, Jennifer. And we miss you here in person, but hope your book tour is going well. And as I mentioned before, everybody, all the authors, Fabiola's putting their website in the chat box, so you can click on that to get links to them. And also, we will send out a thank you email to everyone who registered for the event, and it'll include links and information on all our authors, so you can make sure to support and follow them. So next up, we have Susan Meisner. And Susan Meisner is the USA Today best-selling author of 27 novels for adults and 2 children's books. I think she sold, I don't know how many millions of books, but it's a lot. A Map to Paradise, her new book, is set in 1956 Malibu at the height of the Cold War. It's the story of 3 women who form an unlikely alliance on the eve of a devastating wildfire in Malibu. Does that sound familiar? Just as one of them faces an impossible situation. It's an amazing story. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you so much for having me. I apologize for my very sultry voice. I don't usually sound this sexy, but I have that terrible cold. And I've been saving my voice for these 4 minutes with all of you. So thank you for bearing with me. I've written a lot of historical novels. I've read some great historical novels. And we've had so many books lately that focused on World War II. And all of those stories were amazing and deserve to be told. And it occurred to me that as we were coming around probably to the end of finding all of those stories, people might be wondering, well, what happened after the war? In the 1950s, what was the world like? Were they ready to be happy again? Was the world a safe, happy place? And, when you think about the 1950s, that decade had the best cars and, the best music and the best coats. And there's a lot about the 1950s that seemed very happy. And we even think of them as like happy days. But the 1950s were also a time of great fear. It was the beginning of the Cold War, and no one really knew. We didn't know what we were up against. We knew that our common enemy was the USSR. They had the bomb, we had the bomb. We knew it, they knew it, and everybody was afraid that one of us would use it. And I don't know if you have these in your neighborhood, but when I was a little girl in San Diego, we had bomb scares, and the siren would go off. And in kindergarten, I would crawl under my desk and put my hands over my head because we were having a scare. This is what would happen if there was a bomb. And when I thought about that fear that kind of permeated the 1950s, I wondered if maybe that was a backdrop for a story. The interesting thing is about the Cold War is it brought about the McCarthyism and the Red Scare and kind of a witch hunt to find communism wherever it might be hiding. And of all places, there was a witch hunt for communists in Hollywood. And I just found that fascinating that of all places, that's where people would be looking for, people who had communist sympathies rather than higher education or something. So this story does feature someone who's a Hollywood actress. She's been blacklisted as a communist. No studio will hire her. And she doesn't even really know what a communist believes. She wasn't paying attention in school because all she really wanted to do was become an actress. And she finally had a really big break. She had just made her first film, and now she's blacklisted. And she's hiding out in Malibu, trying to stay away from the press. So, and Malibu, of course, is a beautiful place. And it's unfortunate that it's also a place that is subject to fire, as we know. There was also a fire in 1956, and it does show up late in the book. But she's in this beautiful, idyllic place, trying to hide out, wishing she could have her career back. She has a maid as a companion who's an Eastern immigrant from the war. She's a displaced person, a DP. There were 1 million people after the war who were in DP camps all over Germany and Western Europe who could not go home again, either because there was no home to go home to, or to go home meant to go to an Eastern Bloc country. And for 1 million people, that was not an option for them. So there's Ava, she's the maid, and they live next door to a woman who's caring for her agoraphobic brother-in-law. He doesn't leave the house, and he's a screenwriter, and he's being cared for by his sister-in-law, his brother's widow, and they have a very complicated relationship. In fact, Melanie, the actress, thinks there's something up with them next door. So part of the story is a little bit of a mystery about what's happening next door. But the main thing that draws these women together is that they're all in danger of losing home. And I don't mean home, your address. I mean that sense of safety, your place of belonging. And when you feel like home is in the balance, which is kind of what the Cold War was all about, it felt like home was in the balance. It's a scary feeling. And if you feel like your home is going to be swept out from underneath you, what will you do to get it back? What will you do to keep it? So it's a little bit of an exploration of what home means to us, how important it is, what we are willing to do to get home back if it's been taken, and how do you begin again? How do you do that? If you enjoy books about female relationships, friendships, this is a book you'll like, I think. I also talk about the things that we fear, and I talk about what it means to belong, how important that is. And then there is a little bit of a mystery too, if you like mysteries. So I hope you'll get the book, that you'll enjoy it, and that you'll reach out and we can chat about it at your next book club.
Thank you, Susan. And the book was fabulous. So I think everyone's going to be excited to pick it up and read it. And we hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I was remiss in mentioning for Lola Reed Allen. She shared some great news with me earlier, and I forgot to mention it. So my apologies, Lola. But her book, Highway to the Sky, An Aviator's Journey, landed on Amazon.com's top 100 in aviation and nautical biography earlier this week. So congratulations to her. That's wonderful. Next up, Christina McMorris is a New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today bestselling author whose novel Sold on a Monday sold over 1 million copies. Her latest historical novel, The Girls of Good Fortune, which will be released in May, and you can pre-order now on our website. It's set in 1888. Awaking in a cell amid Portland's notorious Shanghai tunnels, a woman accustomed to adapting to survival as half Chinese, passing as white, must rush to retrace her path before unearthed secrets prove deadly. Oh my gosh, Christina, tell us about the new book. We're so excited.
Thank you. Yes. So there it is. And I am, oh my goodness, Susan, I can't wait to get you a finished copy of it. This will be all gold on the sides and shiny, and I won't want to give them up. I'll just want to pet them all day. So, like you said, you gave a great little snapshot there. It's a woman, yeah, awakens in a cell in Portland, Oregon, where I'm from and where I live now. And she knows that she is disguised as a man. She doesn't know why. She just knows that she is in the Shanghai tunnels. And as her memories float back to her and her path to abduction comes to her, she realizes that she has left behind a child in peril. So she'll have to do everything that she possibly can in order to not only survive, but also try to make it back to those that she loves. So I'll share a bit about the inspiration for the story. I do not blame you if you laugh at this. It did come from an episode of Ghost Hunters. So they had done an episode in the Shanghai tunnels. As an Oregon native, I was shocked that I had never heard of these before. So if you're like me and weren't aware of them, I can tell you in short that it is a labyrinth of tunnels that used to exist under the city of Portland, largely concentrated under Chinatown. Now, it was said that they were built in order to more easily move goods from the port, from the ships, to the basements of all of the businesses in town. But as you can imagine, especially in the 1880s, it was also used for nefarious purposes that are documented, such as escaping raids that happened in the illegal opium dens and Chinese gambling halls when the police or even the Chinese Tong or gang members would descend. Now, there's a lot of stories then that also go around that are some documented and some legend, and it's kind of a mix of stories there of using them in order to Shanghai victims. So if you're familiar at all with the term being Shanghaied, you probably heard of that as, used in an order to kidnap somebody. Well, now you'll know where it came from if you didn't before. So the story goes that there would be a sailor that would come into port, into Portland, which, by the way, at the time was known as the Shanghai capital of the country. And he would drink some ale that was drugged. He would then, they say, sometimes be dropped through a trapdoor in the floor and into a cart where they could then transport them either into a cell or through the tunnels or in other ways. And that person would wake up on a ship at sea. And he would then learn that the captain had purchased him for $50 a head. It's also known as crimping. And of course, that was a big business at the time and a lot of money. And he had two options. He could either work his way off as free labor all the way to a far destination, such as Shanghai, and work all the way back, or be tossed overboard as a drain on resources. So you can imagine that most of them probably chose the first one. So knowing all of this, I ended up understanding that my character as a potential Shanghai victim would have to be very good at adapting for survival, which is why I made her, like myself, half Asian. In her case, Celia is the daughter of a Chinese immigrant, and yet she is passing as white. So this is during a very anti-Chinese sentiment period of our country. It's very shameful, of course, with how many laws that were on the books, specifically singling them out. And so it brings up a lot of questions then, of course, of family and identity and societal rules at the time. So it's very fun to talk about those things and something I can definitely relate to, having a foot in two different worlds at the time growing up. And the last thing I'll mention is that in my research, I ended up coming across two atrocities that I was shocked I'd never heard of before in Oregon and Wyoming that have to do with attacks against the Chinese that everybody should know about. And it was all brushed under the rug until some documents from a court case surfaced in 1988 and shined a little more light on it. So I'll leave it at that, but I'm excited to share the story that has adventure and romance and suspense and lots of fun topics for book clubs to talk about, including themed recipes in the back, which of course I personally love. So thanks for listening, and I hope you'll enjoy it.
Thank you, Christina. We're very excited about the new book. Can't wait to read it and get our hands on a copy. So next up, And by the way, I sent a message to Stephanie Dre. I don't see her in the audience yet, but we haven't forgotten about her. So hopefully she'll join us. Next up is Jan Moran, a USA Today and Wall Street Journal top 10 fiction best-selling author of 30 plus novels. Seabreeze Library is number 11 in her very popular Seabreeze series. When a new guest arrives at the Seabreeze Inn, the Summer Beach Library is at the center of a new threat. Tell us more, Jan.
Oh, love to. Yes, the Seabreeze, well, starting with the Seabreeze Inn, the Summer Beach series has been super popular. I'm on book number 11 with Seabreeze Library. They've sold well over 1 million copies, and it's been optioned for a television series that's currently in production and by a top producer in Hollywood. So very, very excited to see it on the screen, and I'll be able to share more with you when I can. So that's been a lot of fun in 2024. So the series is continuing. I write, my niche is feel-good beach books and for smart women. I also write 20th century historical sagas. Susan, you were I think that was the very first time we met. And the first launch event I did was with what is now called The Perfumer, but at that time it was Scent of Triumph. And so we've been together a long time, but I've been writing more contemporary beach series since then, although I do have another historical saga in the works. So the series, the Seabreeze or the Summer Beach series began with Seabreeze Inn, and it's centered around a woman, Ivy Bay, who is in her 40s, and she's starting over in life. And I love stories about women starting over and having to recreate the next phase in their lives. She is an art teacher. She's turned a large 100-year-old beach house, rambling beach house, into an inn. And of course, it's needed a lot of restoration. In the prior book, Seabreeze Gala, they had raised funds for this. And in Seabreeze Library, the restoration is now in progress. Of course, it's causing chaos among guests. And as with every book in this series, a little backstory first. The former owner of the house was Amelia Erickson. She was a European art collector, and she developed Alzheimer's. She also had a penchant for hiding things in the house. And so every book in the series has a little bit of the history and mystery of things that she has hidden. So we have found together, my readers and I have found everything from old journals to crown jewels to art pieces, prized art pieces. And so in this one, it's no different. We found something else. I can't tell you what just yet, but it has to do with a local library. And one of the guests who arrives in Summer Beach is Libby, who arrives in a bookmobile. Now, this is great because the quaint old library in the community had suffered a disaster. And so people have felt a real void in their beach community. So as this new discovery emerges, this is going to change the lives and the family of Ivy, as well as the community of Summer Beach. So there's always a threat. The community pulls together, and these are warm, engaging, happy ending reads. And I'm so thankful for all of the readers who started with Seabreeze Inn, my first umbrella book, and have continued along the way. So we're having a brand new cover in the works. The finishing touches are coming on that. It was a last minute change, so I'll be revealing that on my website and in my readers group, my Facebook readers group online. I also have another new one, if we've got a minute. That one's called Hibiscus Heights, and that's in my new Crown Island series. And if Crown Island sounds a little bit familiar, it is. This is named after Coronado Island in San Diego.
Diego. So that's a lot of fun. I also feature a historical hotel, a much larger one called the Majestic, which is fashioned after the Del Coronado Hotel there. So I've had a lot of fun with this beach series, and you can always find me for Zoom calls through Adventures by the Book. I do a lot of them for libraries and reader groups. Of course, I'll be doing a lot during the spring with the launch of Seabreeze Library. So you can find more information on my website at janmoran.com, and I look forward to hearing from readers and librarians across the country and around the world. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, and congratulations to all your exciting news. Over 1 million copies sold, the film. I mean, you've got an amazing stuff in the works. And yes, we've done many events together, and it's always fun to see you again. Always fun to hear about your new feel-good beach books for smart women. I love that. So thank you so much. Next up, we have Laura Morelli, who holds a PhD in art history from Yale University, speaking of smart women, and is an award-winning USA Today and Publishers Weekly best-selling historical novelist who brings stories of art history to life. In her new novel, The Keeper of Lost Art, set during World War II, a girl makes an unbreakable connection with a boy sheltering in her family's Tuscan villa, where the treasures of the Uffizi galleries are hidden. Always so juicy to hear about your books, Laura. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Susan. So nice to see you. My newest book, as Susan mentioned, is The Keeper of Lost Art. The entire story takes place in 1943 inside the walls of a Tuscan villa where several hundred treasures from the Uffizi galleries are hidden. This is a coming of age and wartime story that revolves around a girl named Stella, who's been sent to the countryside for safety, as many children were during World War II. But when she gets to her distant relative's Tuscan villa, she finds herself in the midst of a precarious situation. And that's because not only are there several hundred works of art, including Botticelli's masterpiece, the beautiful Primavera, there are also several hundred refugees hiding in the villa. And then one day, a regiment of German soldiers comes, knocks on the door to requisition the villa. Can you imagine? Well, this story actually happened. The Keeper of Lost Art is based on a true story that I came across while I was in Italy researching the last book that I published called The Last Masterpiece. And I couldn't believe that this incredible story was true, that this drama unfolded just out in the countryside in this very quiet, unassuming place. And it was just the confluence of, these priceless masterpieces, famous works of art of Western civilization, all of these poor displaced families that were sheltering in the villa, and German soldiers who were all trying to live under the same roof at the same time. So just to give you a little context for why this happened, on the eve of the German occupation of Florence and other cities across Italy, the museum officials were scrambling to hide their precious masterpieces in the countryside. So in a relatively short period of time, the curators of the Uffizi galleries in Florence spirited away many of their paintings, sculptures, other precious objects into the countryside. They went to hiding places that were privately owned villas or barns or state-owned buildings, places where people would probably not think to look for a famous work of art. And so can you imagine taking on that responsibility of overseeing, keeping safe these amazing treasures of Western civilization, especially when a regiment of German soldiers came knocking and, they had no phones, they had no, the phone lines were down, there were no newspapers running, they were on their own, they had to decide what to do. And so I think one of the amazing things about these World War II stories that have come to light and become so popular in the last couple of decades is we see these ordinary people having to make these incredible decisions and really put themselves on the line and make decisions about saving lives, saving works of art, and at what cost. And certainly, you know, the thing that is a through line in all of my books is the power of art to bring people hope in times of darkness. And this is certainly the story behind The Keeper of Lost Art. So Susan mentioned I'm an art historian. I've been studying and teaching art history for 30 years. I still think it's the most fascinating subject in the entire world. I'm as excited now about it as I was when I got started. And one of the reasons that I was so drawn to art history to begin with, even though I didn't realize it at the time, was that, yes, it's about beautiful objects, but art history is really about people and stories. And it's that, that intersection of beautiful objects and people and drama and stories that sort of turned me to historical fiction, and as the thing that really keeps me engaged with historical fiction, both as a reader and also as a writer. It's the thing that threads together all of my books and all of my interest in teaching as well. So this is my fourth novel set in World War II Italy, and I hope that you enjoy it. There's such an incredible true story behind this book that I felt really called to share it with people. And so if you're interested in learning more about it, just pre-order the book and then come on over to my website. I'm at lauramorelli.com. If you go to lauramorelli.com/lostart, you'll find that you can register there for a free program called Botticelli at War that tells more about this amazing true story. So as they say in Italy, buona lettura, happy reading, and I hope you enjoy the book. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Laura. And her books are amazing. I mean, you learn so much and they're so well told, and she's so knowledgeable. You can't go wrong. So very excited about the new book. Louisa Morgan is up next, which is the pseudonym for award-winning novelist Louise Marley, who is a 3-time winner of the Endeavor Award. Writing as Louisa Morgan, she's published 5 books, including the best-selling novel A Secret History of Wishes. Her new book, The Fairy Morgana, is a reimagining of the story of Morgan Le Fay, one of the most enigmatic and powerful women in Arthurian legend. Sounds intriguing. Louise, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here with you. So many wonderful books I've just heard about. I have a whole shopping list now, which is great. This is going to be a little different. After writing 4 historical novels about witches for my publisher, Hachette, the Fairy Morgana, I can only show you the cover art because I don't have an advanced reading copy just yet. But this is something different for me. So it's not about witches. This is about Morgan Le Fay. It's a new story of this character. The earliest written stories about King Arthur date back to the 9th century, and the oral tradition undoubtedly was in existence long before that. Writers have been recreating the legends ever since in many languages, and now it's my turn. The names I've used in this novel are derived from the oldest sources I could find, with Welsh and Breton and English influences that are reflected in the many diverse iterations of the Arthurian material. The beauty of those names inspired my image of Camelot, Camelot in my book, and the legendary people who lived there. I love writing novels about powerful women, and Morgana is the most powerful of my characters yet, full of strange gifts and abilities that astonish even herself. She believes she is the rejected daughter of a queen, sent to the ladies' temple when she was only 4 years old. But there is a great secret about her that she has yet to learn. All she knows is that she is different, set apart from the women around her, and lonely because of that. She is a priestess of the ladies' temple, a solitary figure renowned for her charms and potions, but close to no one. She is devoted to the man she believes to be her half-brother, King Arthur himself. Morgana's secret is known only to the Black Mage, called by the people the Blackbird, and known by the name Merlin in modern versions. He is a man so old no one knows his true age, with powers of his own. He was a devotee of the lady who was a queen of the Fae when she was still in the world. The Blackbird's long life is also dedicated to the success of King Arthur and the preservation of his kingdom. The third protagonist of the book is a country girl named Brave. She brings the practicality and common sense of her upbringing to the Ladies' Temple, where she becomes Morgana's handmaid and helpmeet and plays an important part in the reign of King Arthur. Other characters from the Arthurian sagas appear in this story. Sir Lancelot is one, you know him as Lancelot, a dark, compelling figure who makes Morgana question her temple vows. Another is Queen Guinevere, who is beautiful but sly and dangerous and has a terrible secret of her own. Of course, there is the great King Arthur, who has committed his life to preserving his country. The Romans want to add it to their empire, and marauding bands of Saxons take advantage of the Roman attacks to plunder and ravage the countryside. King Arthur fights to protect his people, and Morgana and Brave and the Blackbird fight to protect Arthur. The secrets are ultimately revealed, but they have powerful consequences that shake Camelot to its core. This is a novel for readers who love history, particularly with Celtic and pagan roots. It's a book for readers who like stories of magic and the strong women who wield it. And it's a story of sisterhood, fraternal love, and the dedication of men and women to something higher than themselves. The book will be out in trade paper in September, but Hachette opened pre-orders last week. So if you want to plan ahead, you could follow one of the links that is available on my website at louisamorgan.net. I'd be thrilled if you heard something here that appeals to you. I loved living in this world for the last 18 months, which is how long it took me to write the book. And I hope you will be eager to meet the magical fairy Morgana, as I enjoyed meeting her. Thank you.
Thank you, Louisa. We are definitely looking forward to meeting her. Sounds exciting. And she mentioned her book is going to be out in September. And just a reminder that on your cheat sheet, so on our website, many of you pre-ordered books and everything's been shipped except if you ordered it in the last day or two. But if the book is not yet published yet, obviously we haven't shipped it to you. We haven't forgotten about you. We do have a list and are following that. So when the book is published, we will ship it out, including Louisa's. So thank you. Next up, we have Zelly Ruskin, who was a social worker, but once she moved to New York City, she gave into the compulsion to write women's fiction spiced with suspense about motherhood, relationships, love, and loss. Her debut novel, Not Yours to Keep, is a psychological thriller that delves into themes of reproductive rights in healthcare, confronting the complexities that define family, or the risks that lose it all. Sounds intriguing. Zelly, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Let me first say, Susan Meissner stole my joke. My voice is not always this sexy. I have the flu, so I hope you'll all bear with me. That aside, I'm excited to share my book, Not Yours to Keep. It's domestic suspense. It takes place in Massachusetts, and it's told in 3 points of view. Billy Campbell, an infertile adoption specialist who dreams of adopting her pregnant client's baby. While her longing threatens to send her down a dark path, her husband Tyler is keeping secrets. He's full of doubts about becoming a father, and he's also trying to figure out who's sending him upsetting texts and photos. On the other side of town, Anne, a woman haunted by childhood abuse, obsesses over creating a life with the two people she regrets losing the most, and that is the baby she gave up for adoption and the man of her dreams. There's a kidnapping, chaos, and there may or may not be a happily ever after. You'll have to read it to find out. But I can tell you that it is both an emotional and suspenseful ride with some fun twists. There it goes. I'm often asked why I chose adoption for the theme of my story. And the simple answer is I once worked in adoption. But that's not where the concept for this book started. In fact, Not Yours to Keep originally started with a photograph I found in someone's pocket, which is a long story for another time, and it will be in another book. But when I asked the person about the photo, they flat out lied to me. And I guess the funny part of it is the lie didn't bother me. All I could think of was there's a great plot in there somewhere. So That's when I brought my experience working in adoption into it. That job stayed with me forever. I always wanted to show adoption from a perspective that you rarely get from stereotypical storylines in movies, TVs, and books. So the challenge then was, how am I going to make this interesting? How would that photo fit into a story? What if that photo was of a baby? Why would that baby be significant to the person who lied about it? So I added one more element from my real life, and that is after I left my job in adoption, I found out I had some fertility issues, and I drew on that as the biggest what if for this story. What if I had known I had fertility issues when I was working in adoption? How would that have impacted my morals and ethics? Would I have crossed the line? The title of the book, Not Yours to Keep, came last. For me, it underscores the struggle the mothers in this story face, whether they're birth parents, adoptive parents, foster parents, or even kidnappers. Are they supposed to, willing to, able to, or allowed to keep the baby? Again, I'll let that cliffhanger linger with you until you read the book. I hope my novel will provoke conversation amongst you about what it means to be a family and how choices a mother makes impacts future generations. If one reader takes away a fresh perspective on adoption, home run. I'll add one last thing. Not Yours to Keep is not a political book. The manuscript was completed in a Roe v. Wade world. It's purely by accident that this timing of the psychological suspense delves into the very hot topics of reproductive rights and healthcare that we face today, as well as confronting the complexities that define family or the risks that we have to lose it all. On the upside, it has led to some very thought-provoking discussions. So that's been a positive. I do hope you'll all enjoy the book. Thank you very much for bearing with me and this sound. And I look forward to future conversations with you all.
Thank you, Zelly. It sounds like a really important book, and I'm glad you wrote it. And I'm sorry you had to be here feeling under the weather, but we hope you get better quickly.
Thank you so much.
And next up, we have Kate Thompson, who sent a video in because she's actually in England, where it's the middle of the night. So we didn't want to keep her up all night. So while Fabiola is setting that screen share up for Kate, I am going to say a few words about Stephanie Dre because it doesn't look like she's going to join us. I hope she's okay. I haven't heard from her, but I want to read a little bit about her since she's not here for herself. Stephanie Dre is a New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today best-selling author of historical women's fiction, whose work regularly tops lists for the most anticipated books of the year. Becoming Madam Secretary is a captivating and richly dramatic novel about Frances Perkins, one of the greatest political figures of the 20th century who you may have never heard of. And her books are phenomenal. I highly encourage you to schedule her for a book club visit. She's fascinating. She's fun. She's entertaining. She's smart. And so, Stephanie, we missed you wherever we are. We hope you're okay. But thank you for being part of our Adventures by the Book family. So now, Fabiola, ready for the cue up of Kate Thompson's video.
Yes, give me 1 second, and I first met
London. After reading,
okay, can you hear and see her?
I first met Renée Salt in October 2022 at the launch of an exhibition about Auschwitz-Birkenau in London. After reading best-selling book Night by survivor Elie Wiesel, I was keen to learn more about the Holocaust. Renée, who was then 93, had come with the Holocaust Educational Trust in order to speak about her experiences. The silver-haired grandmother looked so small in front of the pack of photographers, and something in me absolutely folded. Surely this was just too much for such an elderly woman. But then she began to speak, and I realised how clumsy I had been in my assumptions. Far from frail, she was the strongest, most resilient person in that room. Renée spoke unprompted for 30 minutes. I could not believe what I was hearing. Of course, I knew about the Holocaust, but to hear the human lived experience it from a survivor was incredibly powerful. I had to know more. As a historical fiction and non-fiction author specializing in wartime women's voices, I was surprised that her story had not already been told in a book. So I visited her in her sheltered housing flat, where I discovered her memories were undimmed by the passing years. If I want to say something about the past, Kate, I close my eyes and I see everything so clearly. It plays in my mind like a film, she told me. And what images to relive. Your 11-year-old sister being torn from your mother's arms by the SS, the cattle trucks stuffed with human cargo, arriving at Auschwitz-Birkenau and witnessing murder on an industrial scale. The hills at Bergen-Belsen, which turned out to be corpses, stacked one on top of the other. Rini has seen things that no human should ever witness, much less a 15-year-old girl. Her experiences of the Lodz ghetto, Auschwitz-Birkenau, and then Bergen-Belsen bear witness to some of the foulest atrocities of the past. The elegant, courageous woman, one of Britain's oldest Holocaust survivors, told me, "I only survived because of my mother's love." From invasion to liberation, as Rini was marched from ghetto to camp, bewildered at the seemingly fathomless depths of sadism, there was one constant, one hand which clutched hers, her mother's. Every day that mother and daughter were tangled together in hell, they were a powerful source of solace and hope to one another. As I got to know Rini better, I realized that her need to share had finally overcome the desire to forget. What neither of us realized, however, was what the research of the book would uncover. When I got home to England after research trips to Poland and then to Germany, I finished the book, written in collaboration with Rini, incorporating her memories and my research. I wrote it faster than any other book I have ever written, the words just tumbling out in anger at man's inhumanity and awe at Rini's courage. It's been my absolute privilege to write, and today I feel blessed to count Rini as a friend. I hope that it stands as a fitting tribute to the power of a mother's love and the resilience of a remarkable 95-year-old survivor. Do Not Cry When I Die is published in March by Alcove in the US and by Simon & Schuster in Canada. Thank you for listening.
Thank you from across the pond, Kate. I mean, the book is so powerful, and we are going to be doing a virtual, Kate is going to interview 95-year-old Holocaust survival Rini Salt on March 2nd on Zoom. So check out our website. It's a free virtual event, but you know, we don't want these stories lost. She's 95 years old, so I hope you join us for that really important conversation. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, and thank you for sticking with us, Mike and the audience. We're going to be doing our giveaway after Mike's presentation. But Mike Feeney has been celebrated as one of the top 5 mental health motivational speakers, sharing this honor with the esteemed Brene Brown, as well as an award-winning certified corporate wellness specialist. In his revolutionary book, Fill Your Cup, The Exhausted Educator's Guide to Emotional Wellness, Mike offers a reflective journal and informational guidebook for educators. Such an important topic. Welcome, Mike. Tell us more.
Well, hello, and thank you all for being here today. I just want to say this is my first time ever doing something like this, and I'm a speaker. I'm a professional speaker, but I've never done anything like this, and I've learned so much from all these other authors and taking lots of notes, and I feel like I've made some new friends. So thank you for having me here. I am a mental health speaker, and I just want to quickly tell you what's behind that. I'm not a therapist. I just have a lot of trips to the mental hospital that I've had in my life. And I've been battling with mental illness since I was a kid. And so it eventually became a thing that was a real problem. And what turned my life around was drumming. So I became a drummer. And I thought it would take away my mental health stuff, but it didn't. No, 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 no. And I ended up having a breakdown in New York City. That's where I live. And I called up someone who worked in mental health and I said, "Hey, can you help me? I think I'm going to die." And she said, "Mike, I want to hire you to be a speaker at my mental health event." And I'm like, wait, you're not listening to me. This is why people don't get the help that they need. So I hung up the phone. And then she did the next day what I call adult bullying. That's where you email somebody and CC a bunch of other people they know, and basically said, I'd like to hire you to be a mental health speaker at my conference. And I'm just like, okay. So I did the conference. I was like shaking, reading a piece of paper and crying. And the next thing I know, people came up to me and said, can you come to my organization? And I'm like, what is going on? Within a year, I was speaking nationally about mental health. And eventually I got bullied into writing the book, Transforming Stigma, How to Become a Mental Wellness Superhero, which I'm proud to say we sell a lot of these books around the world. And I'm really grateful that it's helped so many people. And it's in a lot of schools too. Fast forward to the pandemic, or the apocalypse, as I like to say, in 2020. So I find out that all my big pharmaceutical and corporate speaking engagements are canceled. So I had nothing to do with my time. And I was just lost. I didn't know what to do with my time. So I decided, because I was bored, I didn't know when the world was going to reopen, to get my company accredited for continuing education by the largest governing body for continuing education in the world. And now we are accredited by IACET, the International Accreditors for Continuing Education and Training, SHRM, HRCI, ATD, and we give CEUs for courses in 10 languages around the world now. But during that time, I had a meeting with my team. We were talking about book projects and course projects. And it turns out that about half the people on my team were educators. And I didn't know that. And they sort of bullied me into writing a book for educators. And we took a survey of educators at that time and learned about what was really on their minds. And so we created this book, Fill Your Cup, The Exhausted Educator's Guide to Emotional Wellness. And at first I felt like a fraud because I'm not a teacher, but we sell so many of these things. And what was surprising is even at conferences like the Mechanical Contractors Association, non-educators, people love this book because it gives practical tools on filling your cup, which is so important right now. So, all that being said, I would love to come to my first ever book club. I've never done this before. So you're going to have to like show me how it works if you bring me in. And I think it'd be great to have me because number one, I can share my own story, which will resonate with someone, but also I'm all about simple and practical tools for mental wellness that people can apply right away. And that's what all of our books do. And so with that being said, you can find me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. Also, I've done a TEDx talk. You can find that online, and just lots of different things going on with me. A lot of news clips because I'm on the news sometimes. But please feel free to reach out, even if you just want to say hello. And thank you so much, Susan, for inviting me to be a part of this.
Thank you for being here today, Mike. And I know this is such an important topic, and I'm thankful that people are finally starting to talk about it. And I think it's important coming from you because you've had mental health challenges, and you can draw on your personal experience to share what you've been through and what helped you. It's an important topic for readers, for book clubs, for librarians, for educators. So I hope people will reach out to Mike and read his book and invite him to speak. Thank you. So I want to thank all of our authors today, whether they're still here or not. They're amazing. They're all available to meet with you on Zoom, in person if you're in their neighborhood. So just go to adventuresbythebook.com. You can schedule visits with them, learn more about them. Thank you to our readers who come out and support us and support our readers. We love you. We see all your fabulous and supportive comments in the chat box. We weren't able to answer every one of them, but we see you, we hear you, and we're glad you're here. And before we go, we want to do our drawing. 6 of our authors today have donated books for a giveaway, and you have to be present to win. So we are going to do that right now. And Fabiola, if you would keep tabs on the names I draw. I'm just going to go down the list and pick every other like 4th one. So and I'm sorry if we draw your name and you're in Canada, I'm sorry, but we can't send you a book because it's like $50 to mail a book to you. So if we draw your name and you're from Canada, please let us know. And I'm sorry, we can't honor that. But the first winner is Pat Hendrickson. So congratulations, Pat. And we are going to send you an email, and you can send us your mailing information. So next up, we have Stephanie. Oh boy, Stephanie, I never say your name right. Zwieben. Congratulations, you are one of our 6 winners. Next up, we have Kathy Pillarz, P-I-L-A-R-Z. Congratulations, you are one of our 6 winners. Then we have Janice Wall. Janice, congratulations, you're number 4. And next up, we have Kelly Britt. Congratulations. And we have one more giveaway to Carol Mundell. Carol. So that's 6 of you: Pat Hendrickson, Stephanie Zwieben, Kathy Pillarz, Janice Wall, Kelly Britt, and Carol Mundell. Congratulations. You are a winner of the 6 giveaways. And sometimes after our events, an author will email us and say, hey, I'll give away a book too. So don't be surprised if one of you gets an email from us that there are others. But the 6 of you will win, and we'll send you an email looking for your, or you can send us an email, Susan@adventuresbythebook.com, and send us your mailing address with a phone number, and we will send those out. We'll have the authors send those out. So again, we appreciate all of our authors, all of our readers, librarians, educators, supporters. We love all of you. We love what we do. We love connecting people over the power of books. So thank you all for coming tonight, and have a good evening. We'll see you next time on Adventures by the Book.